What's going on, everyone? Welcome to today's weather update for Tuesday, April 25th, 2023. It's been a while since we've done an update, as conditions have been relatively quiet across the country. However, that's going to change. There's a few systems that we're watching here. One which is already starting to set up shop here from Texas on up into Four Corners region, and this is going to be a system we'll have to watch throughout the week. There's another weak system that's going through the Great Lakes that's going to provide some showers to the northeast tomorrow. And check this out. Relatively quiet conditions for once on the west coast, which is well needed. Taking a look here at the national radar picture, you can see this system in the Four Corners region and in the plains. That's something we're going to have to watch throughout the week because eventually it's going to provide some much needed rain to the mid-Atlantic. Here's that weak system that's pushing through the Ohio Valley. It's eventually going to come across the mid-Atlantic region tomorrow. It's basically a wave that's going around this upper level low, which is providing well below average temperatures to the northeast region. National hazards map, fairly quiet this evening. You can see here there are some frost and freeze warnings up for portions of the Great Lakes, even parts of Kentucky, West Virginia, New York, and even Pennsylvania and northwest New Jersey. Look at this. Winter weather expected across portions of Colorado. Winter is not over there yet. Taking a look at the National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center, there is a slight risk of severe storms across portions of Texas and portions of Oklahoma today. There's also a marginal risk down in Florida where there's areas of showers and thunderstorms in the southeast today. Taking a look at tomorrow, we do have an enhanced risk of severe weather across portions of Texas and a slight risk of severe weather in Florida. Tornado probabilities are at 5% in Texas, wind probabilities are at 30%, and hail probabilities are at 15% and hatched. So that's something we'll have to watch. There's also wind and hail potential in Florida for tomorrow as well. Taking a look at the Weather Prediction Center, and you can see here there is a marginal risk of excessive rainfall. Actually, let's back this up. Day one, there's a marginal risk of excessive rainfall in portions of Texas with a slight risk from Oklahoma back in through Colorado. Then we go to day two, where you can see there is a slight risk that is up for parts of the southern plains into Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma, and then finally on day three, there's that marginal risk that's up from the Gulf Coast on up into Kentucky and Tennessee. Taking a look here now, we're going to take a look at the short range and the longer range. The shorter range, you can see some storms do get going relatively early in Texas and Oklahoma. Hail, winds, even some heavy rain with this. Because remember, you do have that excessive rainfall threat. And take a look at rainfall amounts for tomorrow. You can see here, relatively generous. 2 to 4 inches of rain across Oklahoma and Texas, even an isolated 5-inch marker showing up here. Then as we advance this further, this same system takes its good old time crossing the remainder of the U.S. and it comes into the Ohio Valley. It kind of slows down, and look what happens here on the East Coast. You get this area of rainfall, even thunderstorms in the southeast, but some much needed rainfall for the mid-Atlantic region. We could be looking at Friday into Saturday morning, anywhere from an inch to an inch and a half, maybe even localized 2-inch amounts down around the Delmarva region. So this is something that is well needed. Going beyond this time frame, there's another system that we have to pay close attention to, and that is here in the Midwest. Here's the system for Friday again. You can see it comes along here. It does try to exit by the middle of the day Saturday on some models. The GFS is slower with the system. It's discrepancy, and there's also discrepancy how round 2 is going to play out. Watch here on the GFS. GFS tries to get an area of low pressure going in the south. You also have this trough that is trying to dive in. The question is, will these two systems phase? Earlier runs of some models, including the European and the Canadian, were showing that they would phase. Watch what happens here. It doesn't really phase, but you get another round of rain Sunday afternoon into Monday along the East Coast. And look at this. There's actually a ridge ahead of this on the GFS. So with that, you could even get thunderstorms into the mix here as well. But it doesn't develop an organized area of low pressure. Let's go over to the 12Z Canadian model. That was the 18Z GFS. Look what the Canadian model does. You can see here's the first round of rain. again, tries to exit by midday Saturday across the mid-Atlantic. New York City, you may stay in rain all day. It's not looking like a nice weekend for New York City, but watch what happens here. Here comes the second area of energy. It starts to get organized over Georgia and Alabama, really gets going over North Carolina, and look at this. We have a powerhouse storm by Monday morning. Now, I'll tell you this much. It does move fast, but it comes with a vengeance. 977 millibar low, almost practically right over Philadelphia. And you can see here, you got strong winds, you have heavy rainfall. This continues east. Then it stalls and transfers its energy westward. You heard me correctly. Transfers its energy westward. And look what happens. You get stuck in this cold, chilly, showery pattern for much of next week. Again, let's go to another model now. Now we can go to the 12Z European model. 12Z European does show the initial round of rain from the storms that will be across the plains tomorrow. And it does move into the Mid-Atlantic region on Friday into Saturday. And the European keeps the rain in place for much of Saturday across southeast Pennsylvania and New Jersey. The Northeast, generally, it's going to be a wet day Saturday in the Northeast with showers. Maine may be the only place that ekes out and is dry, but watch what happens as we head into Sunday night to Monday. Where's that southern system? Here it is. It's over portions of Florida. Euro has a much deeper trough that comes in, and the developing coastal system, or the inland cutter like we saw on the Canadian, develops more east. It does form into a sizable storm for portions of New England, but the mid-Atlantic gets spared. So this is something we're going to have to fine-tune over the next several days, and this is a really weird pattern as we head into May. Even the European is showing there will be an upper level system that persists into much of next week. The east is going to be relatively below average temperatures. Now let's back this up again. Now take a look here out on the west coast. You can see here, and we'll go to the 500 millibar pattern to show you this. Look what happens here. You have this little ridge in between, but that actually acts as an area of blocking for this system right here. You have this 500 millibar area of low pressure that comes into play, and it actually pushes back to the west because it's being blocked by this upper level system that's in the east. So therefore, you may have a system that tries to develop over California and then pushes back to the west again. Sounds crazy, but that's what the European is showing, and I'll show you here at the surface. Here it is. This upper level system develops, then it goes back out into the Pacific, then it comes back east again, and it's not a major system, but it's something you have to be mindful of next week. And as we're coming into the snow melt, if it does gather some moisture, as you know what has happened with these models, these systems in the West Coast started off looking weak and they have trended stronger. So something we're going to have to keep an eye on as we get into snow melt time for the potential for flooding. All right, taking a look at the days 1 through 7 precipitation. Look at the east here. It's going to be very wet. The only way this does not verify is if that system, if the trough comes down and pushes the second system more east. Otherwise, even with just that first system alone, like I said, you're looking at 1 to 2 inches of rain into the mid-Atlantic region. And factor in the next system, if it's as strong as the Canadian shows, that's an additional 1 to 2 inches rain, maybe localized 3 inches. So overall, look here, you're looking at a widespread swath of 2 to 4 inches of rain across the mid-Atlantic, even down the Gulf Coast region. This is a wet pattern, and this is well needed in the east. The east needs to rain. Remember, we had the drought conditions that were ongoing across the mid-Atlantic, so this is welcoming news. But look up in the far northeast. You can see here that not as wet as you get in the northern Maine. That's something we'll have to keep an eye on. West Coast, it's not showing much here because this is not in range for what the European is showing. The West Coast, enjoy your quieter stretch of weather. Well needed for you. Now let's take a look at the 6 to 10 day temperatures followed by precipitation. And look at this. Well below average temperatures expected in the east for the foreseeable future. You get this wedge of above average in between, and you get below average temperatures in California again because of that upper level system that comes into play. Even down in Florida, below average temperatures. 8 to 14 days, below average temperatures in the east. Wedge of above average from Texas on up through Idaho and Wyoming. Below average in California, slightly above average in southern Florida. 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook. showing above average precipitation in the west coast from that upper level system, a wedge of below average in between, and near normal for the mid-Atlantic region. The reason why it's near normal, we're actually below average precipitation right now for the month of April, and this system that comes into play is going to make up for the deficit, and slightly above average in New England, where it has been a little bit wetter as of lately. So we get to 8 to 14 day, actually shifts to below average behind that two bigger weather makers. Yes, while it's going to be cloudy, cool with some showers, it's not going to add up to much after that system, unless something else pops up down the line, which could happen, because you're going to essentially have this upper level low spinning around, and it could, transfer energy to the coast and develop another low at some point. Something we'll have to watch way down the line. Again, slightly above average across portions of California, as you'll be dealing with another upper level system in the longer range, and slightly above average precipitation in Florida with near normal precipitation in between. Alright, that does it for today's weather update. We'll probably do another one tomorrow updating the latest model information on the system and the enhanced severe weather threat that's going on in Texas for tomorrow. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button down below. I will see everyone again next time. Have a great evening.